Hello everyone and welcome back to another review with just me, Getselious. Yeah, no Scott, no Keith or Sean, just me doing solo, so you can hear my dulcet tones and my take of a recently card roguelike game I've been playing a lot lately, and the game is Wildfrost. I've been excited to play Wildfrost for such a long time. I've played every beta, every open demo since like it's been available. I just gotta get my hands on this game. And after getting my hands on this game and have a chance to play it, I have a lot of opinions and strong words, both positive and negative, to say about it. And before we get started, I'll be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell as well so you'll be notified next time I go live with videos, and yeah, follow me on the links in the description below. So, who are the minds behind good old Wildfrost? The minds behind Wildfrost are the devs is Deadpan Game and Getselious, and the publisher is Chucklefish. I'd like to give a shout out to them providing me early access to the game, so I have a chance to play it. And I have been grinding this game for like over 10-20 plus hours, and oh boy, let's get into it. So let's talk about the first thing that's on my mind: the graphics and aesthetics. Graphically and aesthetically, it's very pleasing. The cartoonish, cute characters, the monsters, the villains, some of the monsters even change when you beat them up. It's really cool. So I really find it very interesting. So I definitely gotta give it the graphic and aesthetics a 5. It's perfect. It just fits what it does everything well. The characters are really cool looking, the cards look really nice, they play well, and that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So that's pretty much an easy peasy right there. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the audio. Pretty much how the game sounds, and all the sound effects. The sound effects sounds pretty cool. You feel every blow, every punch. The music in the game is very strong because, let's be honest, when you're playing this game, and I'll probably get into it, it's frustratingly fun. It's insanely difficult. That the music you hear when you lose isn't as bad. You'll be hearing it a lot, so you don't get like demotivated and continue to run and trying again. It sounds hit what does. The music kind of hits it there. But is it super memorable in my opinion? It does a job. It's pretty serviceable. So I'm gonna give it a solid 3. It's not the best, the worst audio, but it really does its job, and it kind of keeps you with engaging playing the game. Now comes the meat and potatoes of this game, the gameplay. So I have a lot of things to say about the gameplay of this game. It being a hard roguelike experience, it's definitely a lot of RNG in this game, and there's a lot of RNG in this game. It is frustratingly upsetting how the RNG kind of works in this game. So when I'm just gonna give it out there. So there are 3 stat lines you need to watch out for. Well, you can say 4 stat lines you need to watch out for when you play Wildfrost. There's the HP of the character you choose. There is the attack of the card, and there is the counter of the card, which determines how many turns it takes for an opponent to attack. If you and your opponent is both at the same counter, let's say 1 before attacking, the opponent will always attack first, which that's going to take a while to get used to, because in most card games, you're the attacker, you're the aggressor, you go first. In Wildfrost, you do not, so that's one thing to get used to. A second thing about this game is that when you lose a run, and you will lose runs, there's no way to get around it, you will be assigned a leader to run your expedition to travel the area. Now, here's the thing, right? Since there's 3 tribes in the game, and I'm just gonna call them what they look like. I'll call it Frost Tribe, Shadow Weaver Tribe, and Junk Tribe, or the Gnome Tribe, right? So, oh god, I don't know how to put this. So, before even getting, each of these tribes have kind of unique abilities that is tied to them and only they can do, which is fair, right? Because you want to make them all play the same. Here's the problem. So, when you choose a leader card, the entire stats, as I mentioned, HP, attack, and counter, can be randomized. Randomized to a point there's no proper baseline. An example of this is I've taken screenshots because I thought I was going crazy. I've had a run where I had to choose between these 3 characters. I had a character called King, who had 10 HP, 3 attack, 5 counter, times 2. I had another one where I had another character. King A had no special abilities. I had another character who was called Judith, who was a Shadow Weaver clan. The Shadow Clan had 5 HP, 1 attack, 5 turns, 3 frenzy, but aimless, hits everybody. And then I had a junkie, a gnome, a junker, which I don't know what they are, had 10 HP, 5 attack, 2 frenzy. Frenzy means you can hit multiple times, and trash 1. And I'm scratching my head, like, what's the baseline in here? Which is a, in card games, there's usually a baseline or a set of abilities that makes you consider your options. An example of the baseline would be, I'll think of a card game that's pretty easy. In Slay the Spire. In Slay the Spire, there's a baseline for certain abilities that you see for a while. Now, an example of this would be a card called Iron Wave by the Ironclad. Iron Wave does, I believe, 7 attack, is it 5 attack, 5 guard, right? Which is less than a strike that does 7 and less, and a guard does 5. Oh my god, when upgraded, right? But then there's a card for the another class called the Silent, which has a dash card, which is, I believe, 7 attack, no, 10 attack and 10 block. It's for 2 mana. So for 2 mana, you do roughly double damage, you gain more. So you see where a baseline for attack and defense is. That doesn't kind of exist when you choose leader cards. It's literally RNG. There's nothing you could do for it, and it's very upsetting because sometimes you'll get the situation described worse, or even this situation that happened to me recently. As I mentioned, that each of the tribe class have different abilities and different card decks they have what they do for. They generally have a flow strategy of cards they want to do. Now, when you're picking the snow, the snow people, they're really nice. They're the ones with the little furry hoodies on their head. Very cute people. They have a myriad of abilities they can use, such as they can use snow attacks to slow down the enemy, control the battlefield, which in this game you want to control because the enemy will attack first before you, so you would want to try to get your turn as fast as you can, or delay their turn by using snow attacks. There's also poison they can use because they have shrimp buddies. There's also chili attacks, which is pretty okay. It increases your attack based on temporarily basis. So they have like a slew of cards within their card pool that do these things. Fine, right? Good two shoes. Now, there's some extra, I call utility abilities that kind of like everyone can use. Everyone can kind of use the heal ability, etc., right? So, I had a run where I had a character called Womdle. She had 6 HP, 3 attack, 6 turns, restore 3 HP to all allies, which is fine. And another choice I had to choose a leader was a Shadow Weaver. He had 7 HP, he had 4 attack, he had restore 3 HP to all allies, but his turn was 5. Again, it's all randomized. This is going to be very upsetting because it makes no sense to you. Now let's just, and ignore the junk person because it's just whatever, right? It's like 6 attack, he had 6 attack, 6 HP, and I believe his name was Smuggle. Aimless, right? I didn't care. I'm like, I'm not picking that guy. Like, screw it, right? So, as you can see, Shadow has more HP, more attack, and will go first and does heal. Now, the part that scratched my head is, why would I want a Shadow Weaver using heal? Now, Shadow Weavers have a different card set in their pool too. In their pool card set, they have the abilities where they can use I think Snow People can also use acorns. I think they pull that in their card pool, but that's back to the situation at hand. So the Shadow People can use summons. They have abilities called Sacrifice, and they also have, I believe, the ability to apply. Everyone can kind of use Demonize, but they have the ability called Blue Flame, where if they hit you with enough blue flames, if the blue flame is higher than the HP that's damage done, which is pretty nutty, they automatically destroy the enemy. They just wipe them out, and that damage is applied to other enemies within the same row, which is really cool if you hit off that combo. So, another ability to get access to is called Sacrifice. Only they have Sacrifice. Here's where I talk about the problems with the starting deck with each, well, at least my problem with starting deck each of classes. In my opinion, each of the starting classes should have a bit of pieces of the kind of card and deck they can play with, or what they can do. So, or at least get more access to them. So, the Shadow Weaver class has, is their opening hand, a standard strike that's based on how many strikes are in their hand, is called what it is, the Shadow Blade. They get a snow ability, do they get a snow ability? Yes, they do get a snow ability. They get a snow ability, and they get a summon. And they get an ability where they can do damage to increase their counter. They take one hit to decrease their counter. Now, there are a couple of cards in the Shadow People's card set where if you find companions or in the shop that has the sacrifice key tag. And I kind of wish the sacrifice card was already put in their base deck because it's so integral to how they play. They are willing to damage and hurt their own minions to get effects. Why isn't that already in their card pool? And it's really bad because, at least not really bad, really upsetting because there's a minion in the thing there's a minion that only attacks, that has ability says triggers when sacrificed. There's even minions that only says will summon the next evolution, Chikara or Chikichi, when sacrificed. Not when killed, when sacrificed. So you're rolling and you're seeing these minions, you can't use sacrifice. That just doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good at all. While the Junker people, their deck seems to have at least only one card archetype they don't have, which is the little light bulb ability that does additional damage. But they seem to have a recycle ability because they put junk in their hands. When they get junk is trash, is they put junk in their hand, and that junk can be used to activate cards with recycle. Abilities with recycle, which are really, really great. They can speed up your turn, they can inflict more damage, they can provide heat relief. It's a really good ability. I think it's a really cool idea. So having that in deck is fine. The only thing I would probably put is the impair ability, one of them, so you can see how all the abilities kind of work for them. And that's about it. And they have an ability called Silence, which I think is insanely powerful. It just takes away the text ability from a minion, and they can't do what they're going to do, which is like the Chef's Kiss. You're finding enemies that do hit damage based on health, or abilities that have snow. It's just really good. It just, like, you know you're going to take the damage either way, but it just, like, screw you. You're not going to do the thing you're going to do to me. That day is done. So I really like that ability. And I would say for the Snow people, they kind of have everything they have. I mean, I would probably include maybe a Chili Pepper or maybe a Poison ability, one or other, and take away, and to include that, I would take away the strikes. Now, the thing is that it feels like they kind of uniformly built all the basic decks to be near the same, and I feel like it shouldn't be that way. They should probably have maybe an extra additional specialization card by removing a basic strike. Again, these are just ideas that I think would make it more fun, because I want to kind of explore the more strategy options I have in this game. Because there's a lot of cool strategies in this game that I really, really, really enjoy. And I find it really, really good when it does that. Like, this game will just beat your ass, okay? It will beat your ass a lot, but it feels good when you win. Another thing that I also feel is troublesome about the game is, you know, you losing on many mistakes, or many mistakes, small mistakes, as well as getting used to the enemies attacking first, as well as the card pool RNG. I had a lot of runs where I just lost because I didn't find card utility in certain things. Like, for example, I'm going to label these cards as defensive cards. Defensive cards are cards that just make you not take damage. Damage such as, you know, like a shell card or a heal card, or, you know, even for Shadow Weavers, like you use their summons to block for their face, you know, that's really good stuff. And I lost entire runs not getting any of them. Like, that's that just makes me so upset, because it doesn't feel like I lost because I'm bad or I made a bad decision. It's just because I just wasn't given the card, and it was never going to come out. Like, I know the game is like seeded and whatnot, but it's just like, I do feel like the RNG in this game is very brutal, and it takes away a lot of the fun of, like, kind of trying to traverse to win the game. Because I even had runs where I just got steamrolled on, like, the first two fights, because I just didn't get a minion at everything. Like, in this game, you only get card rewards when you actually go to the event to give you a card reward, or a charm, or a shop. Like, after fights, that's it. You don't get card rewards after fights, like in other roguelike card games, which makes it strange, because you don't get powerful as time goes on. It's not like you gain more HP, or you gain abilities. Like, when you beat a boss, you get an ability where you can add to your bell counter, where you could change, like, okay, so the bell system works like this. So for every X amount of cards you play, you get to reshuffle your hand for free. If you don't like your hand, you can reshuffle it as early or as late as possible, but it will consume time on your opponent's and your side time. And as I mentioned before, the opponent attacks first. You really don't want to like throw away your hand unless you have to. Like unless you really have to. You got like let's just say you're playing a gnome guy. You got a handful of freaking junk, and I really do mean the term junk. Like, it's junk. It's bupkis. There's nothing you could do. It's like, oh man, I have to shuffle my hand. It's 3 turns. 3 turns are gonna go by. You better hope that the ticker goes on by 3, that you don't die and get hit by it. So that's about it. One of the things I also that makes me kind of negative that I dislike about the game, or at least not dislike, makes me upset, is so if you somehow beat the Wildfrost and get to the end, similar to a game I love to death, Star Renegades, that character and that squad gets straight up robbed and become evil, and you have to play another run where you beat them and they ascend, right? Rinse, slap, repeat, right? Good stuff. Now the problem with that is that if you make your team strong, they get strong, blah blah blah, right? Makes it, you gotta beat yourself. That's kind of the very difficult part. Now there are some things that you would put as a charm or an effect on your characters to give them certain reasons. One of my favorite charms in the game is the Trinity or Balance Charm, I it's called. Essentially what it does is that it gives you 3 health, 3 attack, and 3 turns. So if you could buff a weak character this way, or even make your turns go faster. Because I think that's generally how you want to win this game. You want to go first by any means necessary. You want to control the battlefield. You want to apply effects that either decrease your opponent's attack or defend yourself. You definitely don't want to like try not to get hit at all. You just want to do that. And what makes it crazy is that I've had a run where I was playing with I won my run with the snow people, and I had a shell boxer that says deals additional damage based on their shell, and their turn structure I think was like 0 attack or like 1 attack, and it had like 5 turns and like 4 HP, and I was like, all right, I will sacrifice the HP by 1 to gain 2 strength and 2 turn, right? And I did that. So when I won the run, I felt really good, like, oh snap, ascended, let's go, let's freaking go. And I look at the run, I look through the telescope. Oh, by the way, when you lose in this game or you complete challenges, you unlock upgrades to your town, which gives you access to more cards and more things that improve your run. One of my favorite improvements to the run in the game is that you find the gnome traveler who gives you a card but has this little like devilish look, like that meme that like, oh no, I dropped this cool card, the meme that Anya does from Spy X Family, that face. So it's like that, like, oh no, here's a free card, but here's junk, and it drops a junk in your deck. And I'm like, you little gnomey, little bummy, you, I'm gonna get you. But anyway, and you also get the charm collector. You get some really cool things that help your runs do better, which is really great. Now the thing is, as I mentioned, the charm effect, the balance charm, 3 attack, 3 health, 3 thing. I go look at the telescope and I realize, oh, it ignores that whole charm effect. Like, what? It gave it like 12 defense, 12 defense, 12 shell, like 6 HP, 12 attack, and I'm like, wait, it's supposed to be 3-3-3. I thought it was going to ignore that. So I felt like, like I just make it like that. So yeah. This game is just very brutal and very hard for reasons that I feel like it's mostly to RNG and very weird balance decisions when it came to making your cards how your cards interact in your starting deck. Like the starting deck, in my opinion, should have more diversity of things that it can do or want to do. I think that after maybe every 2 battles you get a card reward would be nice to improve, because adding cards to your deck is very important. And you can't win with just raw abilities by your minions, because your minions, your minions can only do so much. They only can do so much. And there's a lot of cool units and combos in the game, but I also feel like the RNG collection, the RNG effect of the game, at least when you pick your leader, should be kind of class locked to certain abilities they can get or what they can get, not RNG all over the place, because it kind of really screws with what you're trying to build, what you want to do. Like, again, if I'm playing Shadowmancer, there's very few times I would consider healing my enemies or anything like that. I would look for like abilities that may sacrifice or damage. I'll take aimless or shadow abilities, because if their aesthetic is based on manipulation, they should have more manipulation effects. Things like that. I think that like the RNG like mechanics or how the engine works to make cards is really cool, and I think it's awesome. but I definitely kind of wish it was leaned more to not total RNG, but like more predicted or cumulative, so you know what you like in effect you're getting, or you try to build archetypes of what you want to do, whatever. Because it just like it feels like I'm just kind of going all over the place when I'm building stuff, and I don't really feel like I'm in a like even when I try to build towards a direction, sometimes even a solid direction, the game can punish. No, the game really punish you per se because you're gonna run into there's like multiple boss and multiple elites in the game. You're gonna run into what you run into. Like there's an elite in the game that says whenever something is snowed, he applies shadow damage to everybody, which take double damage. I'm like and that really like bites. I'm like, oh man, here I am trying to like slow down the enemy's turn and do damage, and this guy's like, yuck, yuck, yuck. You're not gonna once the snow defrosts, buddy, you're gonna even a world of hurt. Like, dang, Skippy. But I feel like that's about it. But as frustrating the game is, it's really really fun to play. The matches are really fast. Well, matches. I would say the runs are pretty quick. You get in and out. It's really fun that way. And so for that, I have to give the gameplay a solid 3. It's worth a try. It's an interesting look on the roguelike, but it's very, very hard difficulty, and steep learning curve can be very hampersome for some people, especially when you look at a game with this cutesy and amazing art style. You would think it has some a little leeway, but it is hard as nails. Like, I would say this is probably one of the harder card roguelikes I've ever played, and I played a lot of them. I mean, like from Nitro Kid to Beneath Orissa to Power Chord to a lot of them. And this one, and I always like the card roguelikes that combine multiple different playstyles together because it makes you think. It makes you like think about a lot of stuff, but it's kind of the thing. And that's pretty much all I would say about the gameplay. Now, let's talk about my real thoughts and feelings. The final score of the game. Now, the game looks beautiful. It sounds okay. The gameplay is tough as nails and very hard to learn and very kind of, even if you're a seasoned card roguelike player like myself, makes you scratch your head because in card roguelikes or you're always looking for a baseline to understand the power level of your cards or to understand where they go up or down. Like, okay, what's the choice between A and B? What's like, is Aimless just as good as Barrage? Do I look for Long Shot over Barrage? Is like do I consider taking Newman cards or applying Newman to cards or everything else? Do I take a consumed version of a let's say a control ability like Impair where you take away their attack versus a regular version? Like, these are choices that you make and that you base your power level on to do stuff, right? When it comes to the RNG factor of the game, which is very heavy, at least when it comes to choosing leaders and even, I would say the card shops. Card choices too. By the way, if you go to the treasure box and you have to choose a card, right? This is a little small pet peeve. I kind of wish you could skip cards if you don't want to take them. That's another thing I don't like. Unless you find a muncher on your pathway. A muncher is like probably my favorite version of card removal because it can eat up to two cards and it costs like nothing. It doesn't eat up gold or a resource, but I think it's really fair. But in general, sometimes you don't want a card. Sometimes you're very happy with the deck you have, and I think that's not cool that I had to take a card because I went a path and I took a guess. I'm like, you know what? I don't want them these cards. I want none of them. That's my choice, and that's not there. And that's not good. And I have to take a card, so I'm kind of making my deck a little more fatter. And the only way that I can make my deck feel faster or cycle faster is if I win a boss fight and choose the one effect, either one, which you get more card draw, or the other card effect, Bell, where you essentially which you make your card counter go faster. So instead of playing 4 cards, you play 3 cards. But those are great and all, but sometimes I just don't want the card, and that's kind of a big deal to me. So that's final score of the game. I think the gameplay is strong. The loop is strong. The only and all the minor things that negative or I find upsetting or hard about the game could be change and balance patches. I remember I had the same feeling about Power Chord, and Power Chord in early beta was very rough. I felt like it was impossible to unlock like certain cards. Like to unlock Ember, you had to defeat like what 20 or is it 50 Ember demons? Now it's just like 10, and that was fine. That was really good with the patch, and they added more content, like with the distortion, and they kind of lowered the requirements for how to unlock cards. So I feel like with Wildfrost, these changes can be made, and they can make their game feel more fair and add more things. Like maybe change how Dreadbell works, or maybe have a custom mode or something like that. And that's totally true. So with that out of the way, and my hopeful experience of the game, and I had a lot of good runs I really enjoyed. Like one of my favorite combos running the Shell Smackback combo. Smackback is when you get hit, you hit them back. So I had when I kill an enemy, I gain Shell, which is armor. So I would gladly take fights with my character, and then like my hero, which I named him Little Pip, and they're like, Little Pip, get him, Little Pip, hit him, like word for word, bar for bar, and I was like bop bop bop, and I was building so much armor, I was nearly unkillable while I was like applying snow and other effects. That just felt good, and that's a highlight of the game. Like it feels good when you win, but you'll be eating a lot of losses. But with that in mind, I give this game a solid 3 worth a try, because they always can make patches, they can always improve the game. There's always a step forward they could do. Hell, they could even add DLC to add more cards and more abilities to the game, because there's a lot of potential in this game. There's a lot of cool things this game does with the charm mechanic that allows you to change properties of cards that you have, the crown that allows you to have a free card to play. There's even, I just unlocked an equipment, I recently unlocked equipment that says that while this stands up, all your minions have crowns, so you can play them for free. It's nutty. I really like that in this game. Like it has a lot of power, but it's really hard to harness that power because you're just doing a lot. And again, this game has a lot of like a steep learning curve to get into, because the enemies are, and I do feel this way, kind of feels a little more stronger than you in some aspects. And I also feel like, to be super fair, oh man, like I said, as I point out, the starting decks for each of the classes aren't as strong as they should be. It feels like they try to uniform them so they have everything, rather than playing to the class's strengths when you choose them, because I don't think that's really a great idea. Like a perfect example of this is like in Slay the Spire. The Ironclad gets a 2-mana card called Bash, which is 8 damage if vulnerable, and that's what they get as like their special ability. You know that it can use a vulnerable mechanic for more damage. While the Silent gets a little more defensive cards. They get like Survivor lets them lets them discard a card, which is pretty neat. I think that's pretty cool. That helps them out, and that's the difference between them, right? That adds such a different play style. Instead of like uniformly, like I guess we have to give Silent a 2-mana attack card. No, you don't. Just try to make them a unique experience, even with at least the starting deck. At least I feel the starting deck, so you don't have to like be so dependent on the leader RNG. Because if the starting decks are stronger, then the leader RNG isn't that detrimental sometimes. Because and I do believe this too, part in my heart of hearts, that I don't think it's bad that if you roll, you roll a shadow guy, and a shadow guy has snow on hit, or you roll a junker guy and he has the barrage when he lowers enemies' attacks. I don't think it's a bad thing. But because I knew, like, okay, I'm picking this class and I know what's in their deck, so I know what I can blow towards or try against. So yeah, this is definitely a game worth a try. I definitely hoping that there's more changes and content in the game to make it feel stronger and better. But if you, the player, play this game, it will be a very rough experience getting through all of it, because there's some effects in the game that are detrimental that you may not understand. Like, here's things it took me a while to learn. So there's a shadow card that copies a minion and becomes a 1/1. When I fought my first wild enemy, I thought that if the wild enemy dies on my side of the field, I'll get the wild effect. The wild effect means it gives me frenzy. That did not give me frenzy at all. It gave the enemy frenzy, and I got wrecked, and I got riggedy wrecked. So they had like 3 frenzy, and they just wrecked me. Things like that will happen. Gotta pay attention to the card effects. Also, man, one of the card effects that makes me super sad in this game, it took me a while to figure out, is the effect when it says "to all allies," and I'm like, oh hey, I can give my attack to all allies plus 2 attack. That's plus 2 attack to my friends, not to the main person that has that card. So I don't have 3 attack. The other guys have 3 attack, plus 2 attack. So, Envy and Tears, shed it now. It's all out there. But honestly, though, I really do have high hopes for this game. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing people play this game, figure out strategies, do some cool stuff like I was able to figure out. And yeah, definitely worth a try, but it's definitely on the harder side. And I definitely hope you guys enjoyed my review of Wildfrost. This is an interesting card roguelike thing that does things good and has some parts I feel is kind of a miss, but it can always be improved with patches and DLC and other ways because, you know, this game has a lot of potential, and I can't wait to see what the sky is up for this, and as well as other people who play this game, and hopefully they'll enjoy it as well. And without the way, this is Getselious saying goodbye, and I'll see all you guys in the next one.